The biggest takeaway that you should get is that you should do something, literally anything, to get started. Welcome back to the channel and to part 2 of the energy efficiency series. In part 1, which I have linked in the description below, I went over how I installed Gable vents and a powered vent fan in the attic of my house. And as a result of that, on hot summer days, my house was 14 degrees Fahrenheit colder. However, I closed that video saying that I needed more data and more months of electric bills to really have an understanding of how much money that actually saved me. And now, several years after filming that initial video, I finally have that data, so today let's go over how much money I saved. Alright, so as I said in the other video, my initial setup here in this house really didn't have any ventilation in my attic, and I was cooling my entire house, which is a little bit under 1,100 square feet, with these 2-floor AC units. With those 2 units on full blast, it really struggled to keep this house not even cold, just really habitable. The temperature in here would be anywhere from moderately hot to completely unbearable by mid-afternoon. So in those conditions, the average electric bill that I had for the months where I was running my AC units was $260.22 a month. And that was from the time I purchased the house up until I installed those Gable vents. That's about 4 summers of data, and roughly $150 a month of that was just to run the air conditioners, with my typical electrical bill just for my baseline expenses being closer to about $110 a month. And these numbers translate to an average power consumption of 1,477.5 kilowatt hours per month during the cooling season, which does seem like a lot, especially for a house of this size. And as I also mentioned in the other video, I was also planning to install central air conditioning around the time that I was doing those Gable vents. My furnace had actually died a couple months before that at the tail end of the heating season, so it's easier to do both of those upgrades at the same time rather than trying to add the air conditioning on at a later point. So that said, I only had a 2-month window of data where I had the Gable vents and the powered vent fan installed, but I did not have the central air conditioner yet. So for those 2 months, I still had my floor AC units. There was no changes to that. The only change to the setup was adding those Gable vents and the powered vent fan. Even so, I saw an average savings of $57.06 per month for those 2 months compared to the prior years. I also want to note that that was in the June to July timeframe. That is not peak summer temperatures here, so that is not the highest cooling bill that we see. So even in early summer where the cooling bills aren't as drastic, I was saving roughly $60 a month on average, which is about 1/3 of the total amount that I was spending to run my air conditioners. And on top of saving that money, the entire house, as I mentioned in the other video, was substantially more comfortable. It was 14 degrees Fahrenheit colder on average, and the temperature distribution throughout the house was much better as well. There weren't as many local hotspots in isolated rooms, most notably being my bedroom, which the prior air conditioners could never really reach until I put those Gable vents in. So that ventilation was really the bottleneck of what was enabling me to cool this house. Only doing that completely transformed the feel of this house. It made it way more comfortable, and I saved money in the process. There were literally 0 downsides to that work that I did. Now let's pivot to an ROI perspective, return on investment, or how quickly this pays for itself. For the materials, I had the 2 Gable vents, I had the powered vent fan, I had a couple other miscellaneous materials for install, such as some electrical wire, conduit, 2x4s, and some silicone. In total, it was about $250 in materials. So if you did all of this install on your own, that means it would pay for itself in the same conditions that I had in 4.5 months. That's about the duration of our cooling season here, so that means within the first year that would fully pay for itself just in the cooling season, and every year after that, every time you get an electric bill that's lower, you are saving a net positive amount because you've already paid off all those materials. But as I mentioned before, I also installed central air conditioning shortly after that, and that is a much more efficient system for cooling the house than the floor units that I had before. So looking at my average electric bill over the duration of the entire cooling season, before I had central air, my average was $260.22 a month. That dropped to $180.64 a month after I added the central air conditioner and those Gable vents. That is a net savings of $79.58 per month on average, which is also more than half of the total amount that I was spending just to keep the house cold. And once again, this completely transformed the feel of the house. With the Gable vents in, it was to the point that I was like, okay, it's not burning hot hot in here is actually tolerable and comfortable. With the central air, it took it to the next level and went from that to, hey, it's actually kind of chilly in here on some mornings. And it did all this while saving me almost $80 a month, which is roughly a third of my total electric bill at 30.6% during that cooling season. And if you're wondering about power consumption, my previous average was 1,477.5 kilowatt hours per month. That dropped to an average consumption of 767.7 kilowatt hours a month, which is roughly half of the total power consumption that I had before. Now you might be wondering, if my power consumption was cut in half, why was my total electric bill not cut in half? Which is an excellent and very reasonable question. Here is a graph of my electric bill every month for the last roughly 5 years. The central air and Gable vents were installed in 2021, so the big spike you see here on the left is the last year of cooling with no ventilation and the floor AC units. After 2021, you can see this massive reduction, but then every single July since then has set records for heat in this area, which has caused an increase in power draw. But if you also take a look at the months where I was not running my AC, which means not during the cooling season, you'll see that those months also increased in cost, meaning the baseline cost of my electric bill was increasing. And that's because the electric company decided to increase the rate that they charge per kilowatt hour used without any real warning ahead of time. So going back to this graph, even though the numbers in 2020 are still the highest, the electric rate was between 7 and 9 cents per kilowatt hour during that time. And in the following years, that electric rate increased without warning, going as high as 23 cents per kilowatt hour, which is anywhere from a 256% to a 329% increase per kilowatt hour of electricity used. So now if we shift to this graph, which shows my actual energy consumption in kilowatt hours every single month, you'll still see a slight bump in consumption, usually in July when we had those record heat waves. But even with those spikes, I still used way less energy at roughly 50 to 60% of what I was using before. And furthermore, if you take a look at the months where I was not running my air conditioner, the power consumption during those months is actually quite stable. It's pretty consistent, which means the only thing that drove the increase in the electric bill was just the rate change from the power company. So really, here's the big takeaway from all this, right? And here's why it's really so critical to make all of these updates. The only way that you can try to lower your bill is by lowering your power consumption. You really don't have any control over what the electric company decides to charge you. So the only changes that you can really make are on your end to how much power you use. Because otherwise, what happened to me where the power company just comes in and says, hey, we're doubling your rate, that's really a situation where your only options are pay the new rate and deal with it, or have your power shut off. So if I hadn't done any of this, if I hadn't made any of the energy improvements, doing things the same way but being charged the new electric rate, my bill would have averaged $347.66 per month. So if you compare that number, which is what I would be paying currently if I had made no energy improvements, to what I'm actually spending on average per month now, that increases my average savings to $167.02 per month during the cooling season. So just think about that number for a second. My house is substantially more comfortable, it's way more livable, and despite all of these significant improvements, I'm spending 48% less money than if I had made none of those changes at all. That is a massive amount of savings. Like I said, you really can't control the cost of utilities, and you can't do anything about it if the company decides to just double your electric rate, but by making these improvements like I did, that really lowers your dependency on the electric company, and as a result, these changes, even though they're still impactful, are much less impactful than they would be otherwise. Because like I said, it would have been $167 a month more than what I'm paying now had I not done anything. And that's the difference between whether or not you can have your house at a comfortable, livable temperature, or alternatively having to decide between whether or not you can afford to do that versus having that extra financial burden. And furthermore, I'm using my electric bill as an example, but this also applies to all of your utilities. So for example, my old furnace that died was an old oil burning unit. During the winter heating months, I was averaging $186.09 a month to keep this house warm during the winter, and because that unit died, I had to replace it anyway. At the same time, I put in a higher efficiency natural gas unit, and not only is that unit so far much more reliable and does a much better job of keeping the house warm, but that also significantly reduced my utility bills. With about 3 to 4 years of data, I'm averaging about $125.16 per month with the new furnace during the heating season. So on average, I am saving $60.93 per month on my heating bill, which works out to 32.7%, or roughly a third of the total cost of my heating. So putting this all together, the improved ventilation, the new furnace, and the central air conditioning, my average savings every single year for the last 5 years has been $1,011.08. And that fully paid for all of those changes I made, including the new furnace and the central air, within the first 4.5 years. And everything beyond that has saved me an average of $84.26 a month. And that number is not just during the heating or cooling seasons, that's the average for every single month of the year, regardless of what I am running. And when you really step back and look at the big picture, that could be the difference whether or not you can afford to pay your other bills, or go to the doctor, or if you don't have one, starting to save for an emergency fund. And I want to make this clear, right? I focused on my heating and cooling costs because that was really the weakness of this house, and that was one of my worst expenses. And before I did all these changes, that was definitely where my house was least efficient. But the same concept applies to any and all ways that you consume energy. So let's say that your funds are limited. You don't have money for a more efficient water heater or a new furnace or central air. Even if you can't do those big things right now, there's still plenty of things that you can do today to save energy and in return save money. So here's the top 4 recommendations that I have to get you started. Number 1, start small. This could be something as simple as changing your minor habits, right? So for example, if you're brushing your teeth, you leave the water running the entire time, that wastes several gallons of water. Turn off the water while you're doing that and suddenly your water bill will go down. Similarly, if you're not in a room using something, don't leave it turned on. So for example, turn off the lights when you walk out of a room, don't leave your stereo or your TV running when you're not there. And let's say hypothetically you have an editing or a gaming computer that has a high power draw, shut it down when it's not in use. Alternatively, you can also keep the house a few degrees warmer in the summer or a few degrees colder in the winter. That'll significantly reduce your heating or cooling costs. And if you're really trying to save money, when you're driving a car, don't accelerate as hard, which I really don't like to say because I'm a huge car guy, but ultimately hard acceleration and a faster travel speed are going to consume more energy. So traveling below 75 miles per hour on the highway and accelerating up to that speed a little bit slower, that will significantly improve the miles per gallon that you get. And while each of these things individually is small, collectively they start to snowball and you get more and more savings. And when you reduce some of those initial expenses, that allows you to save a little bit money and you can start rolling those into phase 2. And phase 2, take care of the things that you already have. Before it broke, my old furnace had a single month where all of a sudden it was burning 40% more oil. Now I did exclude that from the averages above because that was a little bit of an extenuating circumstance, but really what it came down to is it needed a thorough cleaning and it needed the fan service because the fan was not functioning properly. In total, it was about $200 for a professional to do that entire service. And that service fully paid for itself in the first 2 months. But you can apply this same concept to the things that you own. So for example, if you have a window AC unit and it's old and dirty, go ahead and take the time to really clean it out. There's also spray cans of cleaners that are specifically made for air conditioners. Those are relatively cheap at about $20 a bottle and do a really good job of getting all those contaminants out. Or for another example, I had an oxygen sensor die on one of my cars. The engine light came on and I noticed I lost 6 miles per gallon on average over the course of an entire tank of fuel. So when I replaced that sensor, I didn't just get 6 miles per gallon, I actually got a 10 mile per gallon on average improvement because even before it died, that sensor was really fouled up and it was not giving accurate readings back to the car's computer. So just like cleaning out your air conditioner to make sure that that's running properly, maintaining your car is also usually critical to get the best fuel economy possible. Really what it comes down to is taking proper care of the things that you already own is going to maximize the efficiency that they have. And longer term, not only is it going to reduce your energy consumption, it's also going to make those items last longer, which means you don't have to pay as much out of pocket to replace it in the near term. And there are full instructionals online for pretty much any project that you could imagine that teach you how to do it. There is a wealth of knowledge and a bunch of communities out there who are willing and able to help, and really the only thing that you have to do is to start to leverage that. Bringing us to number 3, go a little bit bigger. This is where you get into improvements that have a lower dollar value to get into, they have a fast ROI so you make that money back quickly, and this can also be something simple. Maybe you put in high efficiency light bulbs so you spend less on your electric bill, maybe you spend about $20 on some expanding foam and you put some better insulation around all of your doors and windows. That is also a change that I've made in the last year or so. Personally, I started with a reflective roof coating to help keep the house a little bit colder and then did the Gable vents with the powered vent fan. I have DIYs on both of those. I will link those in the description below. But once again, even though these are smaller dollar value, they're still going to pay for themselves relatively quickly, and then you can roll the additional savings into your next project. Bringing us to number 4. Go big. All these smaller changes are great. They get you into the habit of doing things, they start saving you money, and ultimately you just start paying attention to these things so you know what to look for. However, a lot of the savings that you can see are also scaled to the size of that initial investment, which means on the smaller stuff, even though it does help, it's not like you're suddenly going to save $400 a month because you bought a can of spray foam. That's really just an unrealistic expectation. So when you start to go bigger, look at those things in your life that draw the most energy. When you start to look at those big power consumers, even a moderate improvement in energy efficiency can be a substantial savings long term. So for example, my furnace runs almost full time in the winter, my central air has to run almost full time in the summer. Because those are running near constantly in the heating and cooling seasons, that was an easy upgrade to make. Similarly, if you look at something like a refrigerator, those run 24/7, 365. Having something that's running full time but that draws power at a slower rate could be a substantial savings. There's also more efficient dishwashers that use less electricity or less water. There's high efficiency toilets that use less water per flush. Or maybe you spend $1,000 on insulation for your attic, which is what I was considering initially. And really, that'll help everything year round, provided you don't also have a ventilation issue. These are typically items that have a bigger price tag up front. They are a little bit more cost prohibitive, and the ROI is typically between 3 years and 5 years to pay themselves off. However, you really have to look at these things as a long-term investment. Ultimately, these are the things that are going to have the biggest impact on your monthly utility bills. And when you start looking long-term, the next 10 to 20 years, those are the items that are really going to give you the most savings. Now, I fully realize that spending a bunch of money in the short term is simply not an option for most people. When I started doing these changes, it was the same thing for me. So with that in mind, here's not only what I recommend, but also what I personally did. First and foremost, maintaining everything I had as best as I could, doing most of the work myself, trying to make sure those things ran as efficiently as possible. Then, when the big items failed, when I already had to replace them anyhow, that is when I did the upgrades. For example, I would not have replaced my furnace with a high efficiency unit if my old one had not broken. Similarly, I would not have installed central air unless I was also already doing that furnace, because it was significantly cheaper to do them both at the same time. So in those cases where the old one was already broken, I already had to spend the money to get a new one either way, it was worth spending a little bit more money to get a more efficient unit, which is going to give me more long-term savings because it already had to be replaced, and the cost delta in that case is a little bit smaller. If you do it this way, the energy efficiency pays for the difference of cost between the base replacement and the more efficient replacement, typically within 1 to 2 years. And like I said before, everything after that is just pure savings. So now I'm coming up on year 5. At this point, it has fully paid for the new furnace and for the central air. Similarly though, I do not have the funds to go out and replace all of my appliances with high efficiency units. That can easily be thousands of dollars, and everything that I have currently is working perfectly fine. But that said, if I have something right now that died, so for example, let's say my washing machine or my refrigerator or my dishwasher or even my water heater, right? Let's say any of those failed, it is worth the extra cost up front to buy a more efficient unit, even if that's a little bit of a financial stretch now, especially if you're going to keep it and continue to use it for more than 4 to 5 years. I realize that this is a lot of things to think about. It's a lot of things to consider. It's a lot of things that you can do. And honestly, it was daunting and a little bit overwhelming when I was first getting started at this a couple of years ago. But if there is absolutely nothing else that you get from this video, the biggest takeaway that you should get is that you should do something, literally anything, to get started. Because the sooner you get started, the sooner you start saving money. And really, that is the first step to trying to secure your financial freedom in the future. So I know this can be a lot at once, but hopefully you got something helpful out of this. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.